Please let me know to change.
Next time I will carry somebody for the.
Oh, I know, makeup exactly because of reflect. Oh,
next time it will be.
Next time will be better. Thank you very much for this kind interview. Here I'm a postdoc at the Department of Crop Production Ecology, and I'm working on plant-plant interaction by volatiles and how these interactions affect other trophic levels, which concern about that is aphids and their natural enemies, ladybirds.
What do you mean by volatiles?
Volatiles, it's a kind of chemical compounds that plants release constantly into their environment, and other plants use those volatiles to detect their neighbors. Because of sessile plant lifestyle, if they detect something that's happening in their nature, in their surroundings, they have to prepare for competition or for insect attack and so on. So that's why they are monitoring all time neighbor volatiles, because they represent a kind of footprint of physiological status of the neighbor. So depending on that physiological status, they can decide whether to invest in a above ground part of the plants or in roots, in order to meet competition and avoid unwanted situation later on related to resource use or light, insect attack. This is a quite exciting field of research, because in this way you can induce resistance in plants without any chemical treatment, without any side involvement, just to put proper combinations of plants in growing systems, so you can reduce presence of, for example, some pests, insects, without any, as I said, chemicals or biological means. So that is something completely natural.
Okay, how long are you working on that now?
So far I'm working, considering my PhD, around 10 years on this.
When did you discover plants? So do you remember what's your first memory of plants?
Oh, I discovered the plants a long time ago while I was in primary school. We studied about plants, that they are important for first as factories for production of oxygen, later on for food production, and at university level I studied plant breeding and so on. While I was doing PhD, I came in contact for the first time about plant-plant communication. That was something extraordinary for me and exciting to study, because it's hard to believe that plants communicate each other, but they really use a lot different means of communication in order to survive at place where they are rooted. I did research on plant interactions by touching, by a very brief and light touch, 1 minute per day, and that touch induced significant changes within plant in terms of growth, emission of volatiles, and also those volatiles released by one plant species affected only plants of the same genotype, but not the plants of different species or different genotypes. So, which means that they have very specific way of interactions among each other. So they can send, let's say, private messages only to the like we are doing, sending messages to the person we know, but not for someone who is not our friend or.
And what do you mean by same genotypes? Like they are in the same family, like?
Yes, exactly. Sorry, I'm using maybe two scientific terms that are used in science. Same genotypes means that they belong to the same species. They have like we are in a family. The more closer to your family you are, more, how to say, easy to understand other person because you grow together. But in this case they have a completely same set of not completely, but same set of genes that define them as a cultivar or variety or hybrid, whatever, and which means they are the same. Like as you said, they are kind of family.
Are you vegetarian?
No.
Can I ask what is science for you?
Science, that is, I have to say, passion. You need to have really passion to love what you are doing, because you are always, pushed. Oh, this is interesting to research. But if you don't like it, then it's hard. But if you like a topic that you are studying, then you are always, how to say, interested in what is happening behind, what is new, what should I contribute in this science, how to explain many things around you. And of course this is going very slowly, but it's very interesting. Even if you have many things to do, you have to spend much time studying plants, repeating experiments. Sometimes is quite disappointing because you are getting something that you don't want, but if you really believe and like what you're doing, then it's kind of passion and something that you like, and that makes you happy and satisfied.
Can I ask what is art for you? What do you think art is?
Art? Oh, that is, I don't know, this is a very wide question. Maybe I'm not going to give you a proper answer, but art is for me kind of expression of your feelings about life, or your expression of surrounding world, or I don't know, in one very nice way that can be sometimes hardly understood by normal common people, but from other artists it's easier. But for me it's something that in general that can make your life more beautiful, more, how to say, to maybe to help you to see some things that you can't see every day, that someone see and say, oh, maybe you should take care of this is maybe important for you. And then it comes with time. You need to, as in science, you need to have good background to know what to look, why to look, what the lines represents, colors, and so that could be also science.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you also.
Okay.
My name is Merlin Rensing. I'm originally from Germany, but in Sweden now for 5 years, so this is the 5th year. And here I'm at a little bit of a windy road, so to wind up in ecology, because it turns out that I just love working with plants. Before that I was working more on the human side of biology, but I really love the world of plants, so that's why I'm here now as a PhD student in Velamir's group and within this EcoStack project.
This is project about?
So I'm studying how, as I mentioned, this EcoStack project, there's a thought that if we have a field and we stack different measures of, let's say, flower strips on the side of the field to attract pollinators, and then have this on a larger scale, on a land scale level, and diversifying different areas. So in order, just in general, to have a higher biodiversity in the field. And my task in this eco-stacking process is to have one small stack, basically. And what I'm doing is I look at different genotypes or cultivars of winter wheat and spring barley, how they are interacting with one another. So I'm trying to understand why they talk and how they talk.
When did you discover plants? What's your first memory or...
My first memory. That's a difficult one. So I think I'm a little bit biased there because my mother's a biologist as well. She's not working in the field anymore, but I was very little when I first went on the same courses that she went through to during her biology studies, basically. So I remember very much just as a small child, just walking around the study halls, basically, and the botanical garden and things like that. So I kind of got into contact with these things early on. So I think that's where my love for nature came from, for experience all these things early on. Yeah.
So do you have a specific place that you remember?
Yeah, the botanical garden in my hometown in Münster in Germany. Yeah.
Are you vegetarian?
Vegetarian, mostly leaning towards vegan, but we don't make if we cook, my girlfriend and I, if we cook together, we mostly cook vegan, but if we're outside, we go mostly for vegetarian.
Yeah. What do you mean by communication?
So plant-plant communication, I guess, right? So by what I mean by communication, that's a good question as well, because there's so many different types of communication there. You can have the light reflection of the colors we see. Plants can recognize these reflections as well. Or what I'm doing mostly is by volatile organic compounds, or VOCs in short. There are these tiny molecules in the air or in the soil, and plants can pick these volatiles up, and they contain certain amount of information. Kind of like, I can compare it like, maybe there's an expression in German that say that you can smell each other well. So if you don't mind the other person, or you like the other person, and the chemistry is right, you smell each other well. And I think that's similar for plants as well. So they kind of recognize the information from a different plant, and if that information is usable, they do something with it, basically. Yeah.
I like the example. Yeah, nice. And what is science for you?
What science is for me? Mystery and discovery, I think, and excitement, mostly. Yeah, it's a lot of unknown, almost something arcane, I would say. But it's quite nice. Yeah.
And what is art for you?
What is art?
What's your idea of art?
Well, I've never practiced so much art, but I get the feeling that sometimes my idea of art is implemented in science as well, because in science and all these experiments that we're doing, I think there has to be some sort of creative process, because we're often doing something that is new. I mean, that's the job, right? So in order to do that, you often have to be creative, and I think this creative outlet that you're creating, and it doesn't matter in which sense, if you put it on a canvas or if you're carving something. I think as long as you have some sort of creative outlet, if you can imagine it and you can make it happen, I think that's some sort of art for me.
Yeah, I like that when you mention mystery, because a guy called Einstein said that the mystery is the true heart of both art and science.
Okay.
So, yeah. Just a last question. If you could ask a question to a plant, what would you ask?
If I could, one question only.
Well, if you have many, do many.
So, one question, and what plant? Let's say I could ask one question to my barley plants, right? Okay, so I think I would look at the sky and decide if there's see if there's a lot of rain or drought at the moment. I would look around, see if there's a lot of aphids or ladybirds, and I would just ask the question, how are you feeling today? And then I could understand from the answer, like taking all the surroundings in, and try to understand why the plant is feeling maybe gloomy today, or stressed out or something, or just happy. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for the time, and thank you.
So, my name is Sokakio. So, I am actually the teachers, lecturer in the Royal University of Phnom Penh, Cambodia. But then I just come here for my PhD at SLU here. So right now I'm kind of working on a project on the aphid feeding behaviors affected by the plant-plant communication. So we more focus on how they behave, how aphid grows, and also behave on accepting the plant, so that we can see if there is any effects between the plant that can also have strong effects on the reduction of the aphid development or acceptance of the plant. Yeah. One plant generally release the what we call that organic compound, volatile organic compound, which is a chemical gas or something like that the plant have released to the environment, and then when it released to the environment, it can affect to another plant that can trigger or can activate another plant to activate something. For example, if the plant have been invested by aphid, for example, and that plant will emit the volatile to the surrounding, and then another plant will get the signal from that volatile, and it may also induce some defense to the neighboring plant itself. Sometimes they release that in order to get what we call the natural enemy, for example, ladybird, to come in, or another type of volatile can also trigger to the surrounding plant in order to provide information that there is a damage, or there is enemies that coming to, so they need to release some of the volatile to other plant surrounding, and then those surrounding plant will have some activation to their own defense, for example, like that. Yeah.
So some, let's say, more personal question. When did you discover plants? So do you have, what's your first memory of plants?
Is that so? Plants, just like, because I was in I think it was when I was a kid, actually, because I was in the, what we call that, I'm a farm, I was born in a farmer family, so I growing rice and everything. So I become very interested on that thing then, and then it's quite interesting to see until now, just like last year, to coming into these kinds of seeing how plant actually communicate to one another, and it's really affects to the surrounding and something like that. It's quite interesting, and that's why I decided to come and see how those really kinds of invisible stuff that we cannot see naked eye by the communication. So for example, if human communication you can see in the voice, but those plants is quite interesting to see. There's some indication and effects on this communication. Yeah.
So your first imagine is a field of rice or something like this?
Yeah. So we normally in Cambodia we depends on rice, so we grow rice for our daily food.
I saw that. Are you vegetarian?
Not really, no. I'm okay with any food.
Okay. Can I ask what is science for you?
So science is something to do with asking question by observing the surrounding, particularly they deal with the natural phenomena. So it's kinds of understanding and using scientific method to understand the process of the phenomena or the event that can happen in the natures. So that it's also related to a testable hypothesis that we need to do some sort of experiment to confirm those hypotheses so that we can see the result, and then generally it's repeatable or it's redoable with those science process or scientific methods.
And can I ask what is art for you? Especially you're coming from Cambodia, so it was very hard period for a while for art. A lot of traditional art were almost disappearing there. So I'm curious, what is art for you?
Art. So art is more the ways that you use for example, the drawing or kinds of painting to illustrate the real, what we call the real event, for example, or the equipment that have been designed before, and then to illustrate in the exhibition or something. So but it's important to have art in life in order to what we call that, to identify what have been happening, I would say. It's also, art is also one of the history thing that we can use in order to understand the whole history and stuff. So I don't know if I can catch it.
Yeah. So, great. If you could ask a question to a plant, what would you ask?
As to the plant, why you cannot move? So this could be one of the very simple question, but then also kinds of how can you adapt to different weather conditions and something like that.
Well, okay, thank you for your time and good luck for your job.
Thank you.